Welcome to another episode of Think Chatbot, a series hosted by ubisend. I'm Alex, and today I'm once again joined by Jacob. How are you, Jacob?
I'm really good, thank you, Alex. I was trying to think of another joke to make about myself being in the kitchen, but couldn't quite think of one in time, so there we are.
Very good. So in this series, we try to build a chatbot in about 45 minutes to an hour. So what are we building today, Jacob?
So today we're actually taking a look at something to do with expense claims. So it's kind of looking at the vague, well, not the vague, but the kind of roundabout proposition of companies will have a lot of updates that they need to give to their entire company, and it takes a lot of time from HR, and it leads to a load of questions coming back. So we're going to look at how we can use a chatbot to essentially streamline the updating an entire company and any follow-up questions that might come from it.
Okay, cool. Let's have a look. Okay, so you prepared a Miro board as you usually do. So do you want to run me through this and explain to me what I'm building?
Yeah, of course. So it's this is just taken from one of our clients as recently. They updated their expense claim process and had a few kind of like steps that they normally go through. And basically, I'll just run you through it. So obviously at the top, you can see the company's finalized the new expense claim process. That's just something internal. Then the first thing that they want to do is they want to update their entire workforce on a change of contract details and deadline. So what they kind of mean by this is, in this specific example, the person that employees would have to contact regarding their expense claims had changed. I believe it was a personal email address such as Diana at HR, and then it changed to expenses at example company. Okay. And then also they changed the deadline. It used to be the last Friday of every month, but this time that kind of proved to be quite problematic and not as consistent as they liked. So they wanted to change it to the 25th or the 26th of every month, just so it always had that set date.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say the problem that they found is in the past when they've made these big updates, that leads to a huge influx of questions regarding the change coming into the HR department, kind of makes it quite busy and kind of quite stressful for the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I can see that. And so presumably this in this scenario, this particular client had already a chatbot setup. So we're basically going to update what they currently have, as well as obviously updating the workforce and letting them know using some cool features on the platform.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So they already had a chatbot, and it's just kind of making the most out of some of the features that you wouldn't maybe necessarily think of when you comes to a chatbot, but you can definitely kind of help streamline this.
Okay, that's great. So based on this, we can already see that there's going to be a few features that we'll probably use. So the first feature is probably the conversation builder. So in this instance, this client who probably already has a conversation around expense claims, and that conversation needs to change a little bit because, like you said, the email address to whom this expense claims go needs to change. And maybe a little bit of information around the expense claim has to change, but really there isn't that much that needs to be done on that side of the business, on that side of the chatbot. So we probably don't want to spend any time on that. It's fairly simple. You would just simply have to change an email address for another one, and that's that. But the features we're going to use are probably going to be around FAQs. So FAQs are basically the knowledge base of your chatbot. So that's where all of the information around your processes, all of the obviously answers to your employees or customers' questions are logged in there. And so because there's a big change in process here, what you're probably going to have to do is go through all of the FAQs that relate to that specific process and change the information that relates to it to obviously fit the latest process. And then the next feature we probably want to use is probably a combination of two things. We want to be able to update everyone. So obviously a chatbot is what's called a pull type of medium. So people would go and talk to the chatbot and get the answers they want when they want it. That's the powerful aspect of chatbots. But what we probably want to do here in this instance is also a bit of push notification. So we want to be able to tell everyone, hey, look at this. This is actually quite important. You should have a look at how we've changed this process that you use every month. You don't want to wait for them to find out when they ask a question. You actually want to actively reach out to them and do that. And we probably want to do this in a couple of different ways. So based on what you've just answered, what you just explained, there's a change in the person you need to send your expense claims to. So that's fairly simple. We can do that around the FAQs. We can send a nice push notification or a broadcast, which everyone's going to see. And then we probably want to do a bit of change management throughout maybe the first few 2-3 months just to nudge employees again, don't forget that today is the day you need to put your expense claims, and not the 30th or the last Friday. It's actually today, the 26th, or it's tomorrow on the 26th. So it's those little reminders that we can use to really drive the change as well. Does that sound fair?
Yep, I think that all sounds good to me.
Perfect. So let's have a look. So obviously you've built a sort of a brand new bot here. What have you done?
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I just spun up using the demo section of the account here. So it's brand new. There's no dashboard. No, so not no dashboard, no metrics or anything like that currently in. I've taken a few of the FAQs that our client was originally using prior to their change. So these are taken straight from the client, and just kind of added them into the chatbot, as well as kind of like, just kind of tweaking a few things here and there.
Okay, so this is obviously to simulate the client we were talking about. We're obviously not going to log into their account, so we're not going to do that live. But what we've done is take a few bits here and there that will really explain the process of doing this. So the way we would do this change, and the way we would recommend doing this change, is obviously quite strategically. So the first thing you want to do is tweak the technical stuff. So the technical stuff could be this email address to whom the expense claims need to go. So that would be in the conversation builder. Like I said, it's not very interesting. It's basically just swapping an email address for another one, but you want to make sure that you do that first. So that's the first thing you'll do. We won't go into that because, again, that's literally just swapping an email address. Not very interesting. The next thing you want to do is go over the FAQ section of your platform and go and change all of the content that needs to be changed. So I'm going to head over to NLP and FAQs. All right, so in here is where we have all of the FAQs logged in. As you can see, we only have 3 here because we're obviously displaying this example, but the company in question, how many FAQs did they have, Jacob, just out of interest?
I believe it was kind of pushing more towards kind of like 9 to 10, I believe, just purely around the FAQ, not FAQ, sorry, around the expenses. Okay.
Yeah, typically that would be actually quite close to what you typically find. About 9, 10 FAQs around a specific topic, but then the average HR chatbot, assuming it focuses on a few parts of the HR process, would have between 40 and 50, up to 100, about 100 FAQs. Cool. So here we have 3 FAQs. The first one is, how long does it take to take my process? To process my expenses? What is the deadline for submitting expensive? Who do I speak to about my expenses? Okay, so obviously these 3 will need to change slightly. So do you want to guide me through what you'd like it to change? Yeah,
of course. Yeah, if you head over into the which one have you clicked on there? Sorry, my internet just went for a very brief second. But it's okay, so that's the how long does it take to process my expenses? So yeah, if you head into there.
Okay, so clicking on answers would basically show us what the FAQ would answer.
So prior to the change, what the company found was that they had this kind of quite vague, it would take 7 to 9 working days for an expense claim to be processed, obviously providing there isn't an issue with the claim. And then if there is an issue with the claim, a member of the team will kind of be in contact shortly. But with the change, obviously they're moving to a set date, and they kind of wanted to be able to give their employees kind of a set date of, we should be able to have your expense claim back to you by I believe it was the 6th of the month. So the 6th of the next month, if that makes sense. Okay. So that way everyone kind of always knew, okay, my expenses will be back within me by the 6th. If not, there's an issue and I need to kind of get in touch. Okay, cool, great. So what we probably want to do is, let's see if we can actually ask this question. So I'm going to go and straight up ask this question to the bot, see what happens. Okay, how long does it take to process my expenses? It takes 7 to 9 days, so perfect. So this is all working perfectly. So what we want to do is go and change the copy on this, because obviously this isn't accurate anymore. So we can just go into the FAQs, go into answers, hit edit here, and just go and edit this answer. So what should this say? I believe the way that they were changing it is they wanted to give a set working date. So rather than it being kind of a vague 7 to 9 days, I think it was the 5th or the 6th of the month that they went for. Okay, so let's say your expense claim will be approved, assuming no issues, by the 6th of the next month. Is that about what we'd expect to see? Yeah, I believe that's kind of along the lines. Okay, so we can save that, successfully updated. So this one FAQ has been updated because obviously all of this is real time. We can go back to the bot, give it the same question.
Okay, so your expense claim will be approved, assuming no issues, by the 6th of the next month. So obviously all of this is done in real time, and now this information is accurate for the next person who's going to ask about it. So that's perfect. So what we want to do obviously here is do this for the other FAQs around this. So one key thing that I'd like to mention here is obviously Jacob has been a bad chatbot employee here and hasn't tagged any of the FAQs with a category. So shame on you, Jacob. But what you would typically do here is, like I said earlier, the average chatbot will have 50, 100, 150 FAQs. So that's quite a long list. And it gets a bit difficult to manage if you don't really have a process around that. So what you do is that you tag certain FAQs with categories. So here we could have a category called expenses. And so if we save this and go back to our FAQs overview, you can see that there's a category here that's tied to it. And basically what you can do then is filter down your FAQs based on the category you want to work on. And this is a perfect example of where these categories would be really, really valuable for the management and maintenance of your bot. Because if someone says, oh, we've just literally just changed all of our expense reports processes, you go and edit all of that in the chatbot, because that's what people use to find this information. If you didn't have your category set up, you'd spend a whole bunch of time navigating through hundreds of FAQs trying to find which one is actually related to what you need to update. So this is a good lesson in actually maintenance of your bot, maintenance of your platform, making sure that you have everything nicely in order, because that's just going to save you so much time. So I'll go into the next one and I'll just tag them with the same category. Obviously here we only have 3 FAQs, so it seems a bit pointless to do so, but it's good practice to do that. Okay, they're all tagged with the right FAQ, the right category. So what is the deadline for submitting expenses? Okay, well, we're probably going to do something very similar. We'll go into the question, we'll go and edit this. All expenses claims should be submitted by the last Friday of the month. So you said this changed to something more strict, like a specific date.
Yeah, I think it was either 26th or 27th of the previous month there.
Okay.
No, just
so
while
I
you're
say
doing
by
that.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, that's right. I was going to say, just while you're doing that, I've noticed you're not updating any of the actual original questions to these, and is that because, say, users will still be asking the same question essentially?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, the FAQ itself is modeled around the questions that employees will ask, or the way that employees have been asking these questions for the last X number of weeks or months that this chatbot has been running, and that is working really well for them, presumably. And so you don't necessarily want to change the questions. The questions are still the same. So here, if I go into the question, what is the deadline for submitting expenses? When should I submit my expenses? How long do I have to submit my expenses? All of this relates very well to this specific question. And what you could probably do is you could add a new one. So we could actually do that. So we obviously changed the answer here to, I didn't finish updating this. Any expenses submitted after the 26th will be part of the following month's claim. Okay, perfect. So I've changed this answer. And in looking at the questions, we obviously have questions around when, etc., etc. Excuse me. But now we obviously have a very specific day at which employees need to actually submit their expense. So what we could actually do as well is we could add another FAQ that would be, what date do I need to submit my expenses by? So by doing so, we can start covering more grounds, because obviously now we have a very specific date. It's not just a when or what's the deadline, etc. We can actually say what date is it. And so this is going to help people in the long run as well. And obviously you want to have a quick look at your FAQ questions just to make sure that it's still relevant to whatever you've changed in your answer. But here in the general sense, because the process has changed, but not really the questions, you would only just really change the answer. The answer. Okay, so let's go and test this. So I've got my question here that I'm just going to copy paste for the sake of time. Okay, my answer has been changed. Perfect. It's now fitting with our new process. So let's do this again for the last one, which is who do I speak to about my expenses? So this might be interesting. So let's have a look at the questions. Who do I speak to about my expenses? Perfect. How do I submit expense claims? Yeah, that works. What is the better way for me to submit my expenses? Okay, Let's have a look at the answer, which is the one we're going to have to change. Please send your completed expense claim along with any receipt to Dinah@HR-example.
Yeah,
Expense forms can be found below. Okay, run me through this one.
Yeah, so I'd say with this one, because I remember earlier on in the call you mentioned about how obviously you'll have a conversation specifically for submitting expense claims. I think this is probably an example of clients that are somewhat diluting the waters with their chatbot, because obviously your chatbot itself could handle the expense claims without kind of ever needing to direct people to sending off an email or something like that. And I think that's kind of one of the things they wanted to change with this process. So here you've got an example of a slightly convoluted process that could be made kind of more streamlined.
Yeah, absolutely. With the platform here, you could actually create a conversation that takes on the expense claim itself, like you mentioned. So one of the Think Chatbot episodes that we did probably a few weeks back now was all around booking time off from work. And so if you want to go back and have a look at that, it's actually quite a good example of creating a conversation based on someone just asking you a question. So how do I book a time off? And then the bot would basically answer with an FAQ, along with a bit of a button or something like that, that would essentially drive the user to the actual interaction of booking time off straight into the bot. And so if you go back and look at this episode and you put your mind into the expense claim issue, you could actually quickly see that you could actually do this whole thing within the bot as well. And so here, like you said, maybe this particular user is not using the platform to the full of its extent. But for the purpose of this example, let's just follow the process that they have. So please complete your expense claims to this. So obviously you said that this changed, the email address changed.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, rather than it being to a specific person within the team, it then went to generic expenses.
Okay. And then the expense claim form, obviously here we just have a random URL, but this wouldn't necessarily change then.
Yeah, no, of course, because it's still the same form at the time. Obviously, I assume if they wanted to change it, it would just be a quick kind of copy paste the new URL, or whether it's inside a new PDF document, etc.
Okay, cool. Let's go and play with the bot. Who do I speak to about my expenses? Please send your complete expense claim along with a receipt to expenses@hrexample.com. Okay, so all of our copy changes have been made. In this example, we only had 3 FAQs, which is actually quite easy work. Again, in real life, you'll probably have to update about 15, 20 of them. But now all of a sudden your bot is aware of the chain of these changes. And if anyone from now on goes and talks to the bot, asking information about the expense claim reports, they will get the updated answers, which is very, very good. To go back to what I discussed earlier and the bit of a tactical approach to updating the content on your bot, we went through sort of step one. Step one would be changing the copy. Okay, so we've done that. Step two, really, in this type of scenarios, because obviously claiming expenses is quite a big thing in any business, you probably want to actually give a nudge to your employees about it. You don't want them to just have to find out on the last day of the month and scramble, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. So you probably want to make sure that you've shared the knowledge on this new process before that time. So to do so, there's a couple of things we can do. The first thing we can do is send what's called a broadcast. So broadcast, to put it simply, is basically just a now done message that is pushed onto every user of your chatbot. So this is, for those of you who might have some marketing experience, this would be like an email broadcast. So it's literally sending one message to your entire list of contacts and just hoping that they open it, read it, and action it if you want them to action anything. It's quite an important part of our chatbot platform, because a lot of our users, particularly in HR, but also in sales, they do want to send a push message every now and then. So it's not something you want to overdo, because then it just becomes a broadcasting tool rather than a chatbot. But every now and then you do need to give that one little nudge that will get people to look at something that's different or updated or very, very relevant to them right now. So if you're looking at this from a customer service perspective or from a sales perspective, you could use this for a new promotion for Black Friday, which was literally a few days ago. But in this example, we use it for change management, getting employees to get used to new processes is, as you probably know, very, very difficult. And this is just one of the tools that you can use on the ubisend platform to make this a bit easier. So here we're going to broadcast a message to the entire workforce right now. So we could use, we could type something like the expense claim report process has been changed. You now need to submit your expenses to, I forgot what we said, but I know it was expenses, wasn't it, at hrcompany.com by the 26th of the month. Feel free to ask me any questions on this topic. Okay, so I've just written down a short broadcast message. It's just going to send this to every single user of the platform, of your chatbot. So here, obviously, I could use something again. The message types are still available. So if I wanted to, I could add, a button if I needed to say go and visit this page, visit for more info. I could use a post back button if I wanted to trigger some sort of conversation. I could use all of these things. I could use the date and time pickers. All of that sort of stuff is also available. But for now, I think we can probably just use a standard message. Okay, so I've just written this this message, and now I can actually go and test it. So I'm going to open the demo part of the platform, which has for now nothing. So I can just open this. Obviously, this is the little welcome message. And if I push this, as you can see, I'm setting this up to be sent now. So if I broadcast this, it's just going to confirm to all of the subscribers currently using the bot that they're going to get this message. And as you can see, I just received this message. So again, this is very, very good if I'm using the bot, if I'm currently using the bot, if as an employee, I'm currently using the HR chatbot, I can see this coming in and it's like, okay, yeah, something has changed, cool. And then I can ask questions if I wanted to. If there were more FAQs around this, I could go and ask and get a bit more information. This is all very good. What I could do as well here, as the person managing the bot for my company, is I would want to potentially schedule this. So here I've just sent this one. I can send another one. Reminder, please schedule. Not schedule. Just because I'm scheduling something, I'm saying schedule. Please submit your expenses by the 26th in 3 days. And here I could actually say, all right, I'm going to schedule this for the 23rd at 1 p.m. And then I can actually schedule this message. And now it is scheduled for this date. If I go into the scheduled broadcast, you can see that it's still here, which is very nice. I can go and edit it if I wanted to, or I can go and bin it if I didn't want this anymore. So again, for the change management perspective, you probably want to have a couple of messages that are scheduled for the next couple of months. So reminder, the expense claim process has changed. Please submit by tomorrow. Okay, and again, I can probably schedule this. This is December right now. I'll probably go and let's say do this in January again, because we really want to make sure that our employees know what they need to do. So I'm going to schedule this one. And as you can see, now I have 2 reminders scheduled. Perfect. Okay, so this is part 1 of the change management. It's a broadcast, it's a message to everyone using the bot that explains them how things have changed. Now, the key part of this that you need to remember is broadcasts are actually only sent to people currently using the bot. So this is very good if you want to do a flash information to anyone. Again, flash sale, flash type things, perfect. But if someone is not currently using the bot, they're not going to receive that message. So that's not good enough. So what we want to do as well is, on top of the broadcast, we actually want to send a notification. So a notification is just going to be sent to every user of the platform of the chatbot, whether or not they're currently on the chatbot. They'll see it in the little bell icon in the top right. For this example, let's switch gears a little bit. I've opened the full page chatbot. So this could be how your employees are actually using the bot. It might not be the little widget. It might be actually a completely full page bot. So in this example, let's just create a notification that says, reminder, you need to submit your expenses by the 26th. I could add a little link here if I wanted to add some more information, but I'm just not going to do that. I'm just going to create this. And my notification has been created. If I go into my bot, as you can see, there's a little one here in the top right. If I click this, you can see my notification just came through. Now, the really powerful thing of this is that notifications, again, go to everyone, regardless of whether or not they're actually on the bot right now. So this is, again, another type of nudge that you can send to everyone. So this one is just going to stay there until someone has read it. So if one of your employees is on holiday right now and comes back in 5 days and hasn't used the bot in 5 days, they're not going to see the broadcast because they weren't using the bot, but they will see the notification because it's just going to remain there until it's been read. So using these two tools within the platform, we can actually nudge the change management a little bit further with every tool. Does that make sense, Jacob?
Yeah, it all makes sense to me. So just to kind of like talk about where we've got so far is we've kind of, for people immediately using the bot, we've sent out a nice broadcast with quite a bit of information. And then we've also kind of got a constant persistent notification to remind everybody that they need to check it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have changed the FAQ copy, which is good. So if anyone tries to pull some information on this process from the bot, this is completely changed and updated. Great. We've done a broadcast, which informs everyone that's currently using the bot. We've scheduled some broadcasts, which is very good as well. So you probably want to schedule 6 or 7 in the next few months, just reminding people of what's going on. And then we have a notification reminder that is going to just appear until you actually read it. It's just going to stay there. And then you can probably actually create multiple notifications if you'd like. So you might want a notification right now saying, don't forget to submit your expenses by the 26th. But then on the day or two before the 26th, you might want to delete that notification and say, reminder, if you haven't done it yet, this is the last couple of days for you to submit your expenses, something like that. That keeps nudging the user forward. And I think we've probably built what you wanted to build. Is that everything you wanted us to build?
Yeah. So just looking back at the mirror board here, we've been able to update the entire workforce on the change of contact details and deadline. Obviously, there's going to be questions coming in regarding the change, which the FAQs are dealing with there. And we've also got a few things in place to kind of remind the workforce of the kind of the new changes, like you mentioned, the change management that we need to kind of put in place. And again, obviously that will always bring a second wave of questions, maybe a bit less, but the FAQs are handling with them. And yeah, so I think it kind of covers everything that the client was after.
Perfect. Okay. I don't think I would add anything to this. We probably would want to add some sort of conversation builder around this. You probably want to get away from this sending an email. That's very archaic. So you probably want to, as the next step of this, actually automate all of that into an actual conversation within the bot. So that could be a next step if this is what you're currently using the platform for. And then, yeah, like you said, I think it's quite important to map out what the questions will be around this new process. If there is something new that could come up from your customers, employees. So for instance, if you release this on the 27th, for instance, as a new process, you might want to have some FAQs, create some FAQs around what happens if I didn't submit it on the 26th. Like people will probably ask, well, it just happened today. I just did my expenses yesterday or something like that, you know. So you probably want to think of what people might ask as you just do all of these changes, and just create some FAQs around that you might even have to delete later on. That's completely fine as well, but just make sure that you sort of prepare a little bit for that. So yeah, we've built everything we wanted to build. Any last words, Jacob?
I think just on that last point there about kind of like, maybe adding in a few extra FAQs, I suppose it's quite nice in a way to have something with the flexibility, if that makes sense, for the kind of quick changes. It's not like just kind of updating everyone via email where you don't have that kind of on the fly kind of quick change capability, because you can't schedule things, you can't add things, take things away as easily.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the purpose of the platform, is to be able to also dip in and out as needed. And you don't need us, you don't need an expert to do this. As you can see, I literally just clicked a few buttons and typed the different answers. You don't need a chatbot expert to do any of this. It's literally just managing the bot that your company is currently using and that your employees are currently using. Super simple, and the platform makes it really easy to do all of this. Cool. Well, thank you very much for attending. Thank you to everyone who watched us do this live. To those of you who watch this recording on YouTube or elsewhere, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to be updated on the latest videos we release, which we're now releasing videos probably weekly or bi-weekly now, a couple of times a week probably now, Jacob. So there's a lot of content coming out there towards you, so make sure you subscribe to know what's coming to you. And I'll see you all at the next Think Chatbot. Thank you, everyone.